They gave me the worst room on the family trip. They didn't know I owned the hotel. Room 108, first floor, next to the laundry. The constant hum of industrial machines rattling through paper-thin walls while my sister Lucia got the presidential suite with the ocean view. My parents, the executive suite. Even my cousins. Rooms with balconies. Me? I got the leftovers. Carmen doesn't need luxuries, my mother announced in the lobby, not even looking at me. She's simple. The manager, Miguel, knew exactly who I was. His eyes met mine with concern, but I shook my head slightly. We'd agreed to keep my ownership secret. I needed to see how far they'd actually go. 6 months earlier, my grandfather had left me Hotel Miramar in a secret trust. The family thought he'd sold it. They had no idea the struggling graphic designer now owned the 5-star property they were staying in. As always, Carmen settles for the leftovers. My cousin Daniela whispered loud enough for me to hear. I took the key without protest. That night at dinner, they seated me behind a column, partially hidden. Can't you afford something better than salad? My father asked while everyone else ordered the most expensive items. We can treat you if you want. My brother-in-law Roberto laughed into his wine. The graphic design business must not be so lucrative after all. If only they knew. My agency had 30 employees, $3 million in annual revenue, but I'd stopped correcting their assumptions years ago. The head chef appeared, Antonio, whom I'd personally hired 3 months earlier. He gave me a small, respectful bow. Was the salad to your liking, Miss Carmen? My family's head snapped up. You know the chef? Lucia asked, suspicious. We've crossed paths, I said quietly. The comments got worse as the wine flowed. My mother kept praising Lucia while dismissing my drawing business. Miguel approached discreetly. Miss Carmen, there's an urgent matter requiring your attention. Roberto's laugh was cruel. What could be so urgent for Carmen? Did they run out of colored pencils? In my private office, Miguel looked pained. I can't continue watching how they treat you. You're the owner of this place. I know, I said, but I need to understand why first. I'd found letters that morning in my grandfather's files. My own mother, writing to him for years. Carmen isn't like us. She doesn't have what it takes to succeed. She'd orchestrated my marginalization because my grandfather loved me in a way he'd never loved her. The next night at the formal gala dinner, Daniela spoke up during dessert. Carmen, I saw you in the hotel's private office yesterday. You seemed very comfortable there. Silence fell across the table. What were you doing in restricted areas? My father demanded. Miguel appeared with expensive champagne. Miss Carmen, the champagne you requested for your family. We didn't order, my mother started. It's from me, I said calmly. Roberto nearly choked. How could you afford that? Over the next hour, I let the truth slip through. My agency's revenue, my international clients, the success they'd never bothered to notice. You're lying, my mother said, face pale. There's a difference between humility and allowing myself to be treated like trash, I replied. The next morning, I called a meeting. My grandfather's lawyer, the hotel management, my entire family, confused and nervous. I stood before them all, heart pounding. Grandfather didn't sell Hotel Miramar, I said. He left it to me in trust. I've been the owner for 6 months. The silence was absolute. Roberto's face went red. This is absurd. I had proof. Their emails trying to manipulate my grandfather into selling the hotel cheap. My mother's letters poisoning him against me for years. Why? My mother whispered. Why did you accept that horrible room if you owned the place? Because I needed to see how far you'd go, I said, voice cracking. I needed to understand if there was any limit to your contempt. The lawyer read my grandfather's final letter aloud. How he'd watched them tear me down for years. How he'd left me the hotel because he trusted my heart to heal our family's wounds. My mother approached me, trembling. I don't deserve forgiveness, but if you're willing to give me a second chance, that's all I ever wanted, Mom. Roberto stormed out. My father looked devastated, but Lucia stayed beside me. While I sought his approval, you sought his wisdom, she said quietly. Now I understand. 1 year later, my mother and I have weekly lunches. My father mentors young entrepreneurs. Lucia went back to school. Even Roberto came back, asking for a job he'd have to earn. Room 108 became a museum about my grandfather's legacy. The sign at Hotel Miramar's entrance reads, "We don't build walls, but bridges." That's the secret my grandfather left me. Retry.